everyone, and welcome to the read along of my book Planting a Poetry Plant, a collection of rhyming poems. In this video, I'll be reading the first chapter as well as 3 poems from my book. Before starting, I want to let you guys know that I won't be able to tell you the exact page number from which I'm reading, as the page numbers in my proof copy are quite messed up. So I improvised it later, but my copy does not have the exact page numbers. So I'll just tell you the chapter and section from which I'm reading, so that if you have a copy of the book, you can refer to the table of contents, and from there you can go to the exact page from which I'm reading. So now that I've said that, let's get started. Please turn to the first chapter of the book titled Dear Reader. Dear reader, first of all, thank you so much for choosing this book. It's a huge honor for me to have my very first book in your precious collection. So as you've just read, this is my very first book which I'm publishing. Planting a Poetry Plant is a collection of all the poems I have written and recorded so far. Some poems might have been lost over the course of time, but these are the ones I have with me, and I'm excited and honored to share them with you. I chose this title because I think of my poetry writing journey as a plant whose seeds were sown in 2016 and is still growing since that period. Before I start, I want to talk about this art I'm still trying to improve in and what you can expect from this book. It's not much, but I sincerely hope you enjoy it. Robert Frost has said, "Poetry is when an emotion has found its thought and the thought has found words." Poetry is, what I think, the art of expressing your thoughts in the form of words, which can sometimes leave a mark on the reader and even change someone's course of life to a different level. When a thought is stuck in the mind and words in the throat, that's when a poem is born. This is when words bleed on a page, as they have no bounds and you have to let go of them if you don't want to be haunted by them. Writing poetry is a very sensitive and vulnerable process. It requires the poet to, in a way, expose their soul to the reader, because that is how the readers will be able to connect to the poet and understand the poem at the deepest level. It is the art of showing the reader a whole new perspective in the exact same way as you see it. It took me a good number of years before understanding what poetry actually is. In my earlier years, I wrote poems just because I was in the mood of writing. I paid no attention to its quality and the choice of words at all. The first habit till now hasn't changed. I still write only when I'm in the mood. It's just that now I've learned the use of poetic devices a little bit and to use better words for a better presentation. But, here's a but. Poetry is the game of words, but that doesn't mean it's all about using difficult or fancy words. I always prefer to choose the level of words according to the theme of my poem and the audience I'm writing for. Sometimes it's better to use simple words in a poem if it is intended to reach out to the general public. Even if they are to learn a word or two, you still want them to understand your poem and not spend the entire time looking up for the words' meanings, don't you? I'm saying this straight out of my heart. I'm no expert in poetry, just a 14-year-old newbie who's aspiring to hone her skills and to become a famous published author someday. My intention is to express myself truly and present to you the real Prabjot and her development so far, which you are to judge by reading my poems. I wrote my first poem at the age of 10, more precisely a month before I turned 10. It was a very random decision, if I am to call it so, I made, and at that time I had no idea if I wanted to continue this. And here I am today with 30 plus poems to my credit, having rewritten many of them, having been rejected 4 times by poetry journals. Oh dear. And having written a poem whose edited version got picked for the home page of the site I usually post my poems on. that's the closest thing I've had to success in the field of writing, so I'm unnecessarily proud of it. Yes, I'm not lying there, and I know there's nothing remarkable in anything I've done, but at least I have this privilege to say that I have much time to learn. Even the decision of sending my not so good poems, just don't want to be harsh about my own work, so I'm using this mild phrase, to poetry journals was also quite accidental. At that time, I had no idea about the quality my poems require in order to be sent and the way I should present it whatsoever. More about that later. I feel like now I'm ready to begin with the actual content of this book, that is, my poems. Arranged in the order they were written for the first 5 years, you'll get to know the reason for that afterwards, as well as a description about each of the 6 years covered here. I really hope that you too are eager to dive into my poetic journey and to know more about me in the forthcoming pages. I want you to please turn to Year 6, 2021, Theme 1, Nature, the poem, The Pink Moon. The pink moon. The pink moon arrives every April to bless with its shimmer each selenophile's will. It may not be tinted in pink, but with its diamond-like hue in the dark, black, stretched sky, it creates a mesmerizing view. This year, at the perigee, appears a ball of silver spectre, favors the inquisitive observation, as it could never be better. It radiates amenity, conjuring admiration in any eyes that look upon it and sense its aura like a crystal of ice. You take your eyes from it, but still find it there. It's only visible to you, the incessant portrait which it spared just for you. I want you to skip 2 poems in between and turn to the poem The Invincible Sun. The Invincible Sun. It rises at dawn and for the whole day continues to sway. Conquering the grey, dark times, it still returns to brighten your day. No storm can erase forever, no clouds can eclipse its glory. The sands of time, albeit dynamic, always fail to demolish its story. Now, for the final poem, I want you to please turn to Theme 2, Optimism, poem, A Bliss of Solitude. A bliss of solitude. Sometimes it happens so that everyone is surrounding you just when you want to be alone, and just when you need some company, you realize everybody is gone. The same occurred to me the other day when I was rendered all alone. Yet I didn't beat myself up, for I needed some loan. So, what if they left? Does it even matter? Even if they had called you, it would have been only for silly chatter. Don't feel bad about it. You should be rather proud. After all, in order to succeed, you have to separate from the crowd. So I shake it all off, cheer up with a smirk, and move on to complete tasks, no longer feeling like a jerk. First priorities first. I begin with the schoolwork, finishing up the pile while they ignore me and lurk. I then proceed to finish a story which seemed to take forever, until now when I have completed it, knowing that it's worth the endeavor. I sit back and relax to take a productive chill. I read, study and think, having my recovery pill. I feel the glee like never before after this bliss of solitude. I'm so addicted to it that I now keep away from the multitude. This poem, we come to an end to the read-along of Planting a Poetry Plant, a collection of rhyming poems. Thank you all very much for joining me in this read-along today. I'm so glad you did join, and if you like these poems which I read and want to read more of these, then please do consider buying a copy of Planting a Poetry Plant from the links in the description. Thank you so much. I'll see you later in the next video.